Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. This is History and Culture of Pakistan 20591 for class Olevel 8. In our previous lessons, we discussed the Mughal rule and causes of its decline. Our next topic is arrival of the British in the subcontinent or East India Company. We will discuss this topic under two questions. Number one, what was the East India Company? And the second, why did East India Company involve in India? The first part, what was East India Company? It was a British trading company. In 1583, Queen Elizabeth I dispatched a ship to the subcontinent to exploit opportunities for trade. Then in 1600, Queen Elizabeth granted trading rights to a group of merchants to set up East India Company for trade between Britain and countries east of Africa. The first trading ship of East India Company landed at Surat in 1608 and established its headquarters in 1664 at Bombay. EIC gradually became stronger by acquiring military strength and established British rule in India. Now we will discuss the other part of the topic, that is, why did the East India Company become involved in India? There were many reasons for its involvement in India or subcontinent. The East India Company turned towards India and decided to oust the Dutch, French and Portuguese who were already trading over there. The Dutch had long been the sea traders and were the greatest map makers in Europe. The Dutch continued to improve their ships' business techniques and began establishing trade connections with Indonesia. Seeing the profits which Dutch were making, Queen Elizabeth I joined that competition by permitting the British East India Company to set up and trade in India. The other reason why British involved in the subcontinent was the demand of Indian spices and other resources. The Dutch had progressed because of the spice trade, and Europe did not grow its own spices, so the explorers from Europe would set out in search of spices, and India was rich in those. The British not only wanted to buy black pepper, they also wanted to buy other spices, various types of cotton, silk, opium, jute, sugar, salt and gold. Because of the climatic conditions, cotton could not be grown in Britain. So cotton yarn and cotton cloth were highly in demand. Salt was used to make gunpowder and indigo was used to make dyes. This dye was in demand for coloring the Royal Navy's uniform. The EIC then encouraged the growth of opium in India to sell it to the Chinese and buy tea from China in return. Lastly, India has strategic position on the globe. It would give regional supremacy to the British Royal Navy. They would also be able to control the sea routes and hence trade with the East. Initially, East India Company would only interested in trade and not in any kind of politics. But due to the decline of the Mughal Empire, disunity among the Indians and the lack of central government led to the British to take interest in local politics. Moreover, they saw an opportunity to promote Christianity and their Western culture as well. Now let's see how the traders became the rulers. That East India Company that came in India for trade, how it became enabled to get the power in the whole of India. They did so gradually. In 1608, the first coastal ship of EIC landed at Surat, the coastal city in the province of Gujarat, India. The Mughal Emperor Jahangir initially refused to allow the EIC to set up its trading posts, but in 1612 his son Khurram, who is known as Shah Jahan, the governor of Gujarat, permitted EIC to set up their first factory at Surat. In 1639, the East India Company expanded towards the eastern coast and established a factory at Madras as well. But the life was not the bed of roses for EIC employees. They had to deal with the hostile climatic conditions and their European competitors, the French and the Portuguese. Because of the presence of European competitors, EIC had to assemble its own military and administrative departments as well. And soon its factories were converted into forts. From 1686 to 1690, the EIC kept on challenging the authority of the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb by refusing to pay taxes. However, after a few skirmishes mean fights, wars, Aurangzeb was able to defeat EIC and made them pay huge fines. The EIC ambitions were now clear, but they had to wait for better time to gain power, and that opportunity came in 1750s when the Mughal Empire was collapsing and the Indians were too busy fighting among themselves that they did not consider the British EIC as their enemy. So here we close our topic, and we have come to know that how the EIC who came as the traders became the rulers of India step by step. And then we will further see in our next discussions that how British expanded from their power, from their rule from the 1750s to 1850s. Dear students, here are some questions which you have to do in your notebooks neatly. Listen this lecture carefully and read this topic from your textbook also, and then do these questions. We will discuss them further in our upcoming online lecture. Okay, and questions are which are today's topic also. Question number 1: what was East India Company? Why did East India Company become involved in India? Thank you. Stay blessed. Stay safe.